Unprocessed. Regain strength, confidence, and self respect without shame, judgment, or emotional overwhelm. Welcome to What People Miss. This podcast is your sacred space to practice self nurturing as a radical act and to remember that you are allowed to choose joy and pleasure even in seasons of grief, transition, and rage. Listen for what you're missing between the feelings and emotion you are dismissing. Hi, I'm your host, Cordelia Gaffar, known as the Ultimate Joy Goddess. I'm the CEO of Workout Around My Day and Joy Bonding Consultant, an award-winning podcast host, best-selling author, and embodiment guide. Get ready to take notes so that you can implement the lessons that I share today. Welcome to What People Miss. Today I'm really excited to have a conversation with a friend of mine about embracing your rage.
Hey,
Hey,
how
Willie.
are you?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm very blessed. Thanking God for another day of abundance and opportunity. Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I also want to congratulate you on your best-selling EP, Eternal Love.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, it's
And
surprising.
your yes.
Yeah.
I love that you always remind us about love and its connection to the divine. And you know, and
Yeah.
as an author too, right? You just recently released your first book of poetry, which is also a bestseller.
Oh, it's still number one today in African poetry of Black history. What? Yeah, I couldn't ask for a better alignment, right? But yeah, it's called Goodbye Past, Hello Future, Kingdom Poetry, and shout out to everyone who's been supporting. And we released a single right along with that, like a double barrel shotgun, right?
Hmm.
With two barrels loaded. And right along with that, to accompany the book, we put out Be With You, which was our fourth number one. That one hit the R&B charts with Jamie Foxx and Jill Scott and all of the R&B greats. So it's a great month so far, a great year so far. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love like how you are you talk about love, you talk about the divine, and also when you were referencing the release of your book of poetry and your singles, you said it was a double-barreled gun, which kind of brings us to what we're talking about today, right? Because they just bombed Iran. Like,
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh yeah. Sometimes before you can find love, true love, sometimes you have to go through moments of not just discomfort. There's going to be those moments where rage tries to get the best of you, especially when it's filtered through unresolved traumatic experiences. You know what I mean?
I do. And I mean, so in your experience, you've had some things that helped you to get to the well of your rage. How did love come out of that?
God is love, number one, right?
Okay.
And having a loving mom too, and father, but especially my mom coming up. Like I tended to, I would have the common tendency to lean on her. We were like best friends. Rest her soul, rest in heaven now. She passed away from breast cancer at 54, I believe about to be 55. Same month with cancers. Her birthday is July 9th. She passed on July 3, transition rather. 3 passed over to the other side. And then my birthday is July 13th. So it's pretty ironic. But, in terms of what love looks like and what it tastes like and what, the fragrance, the very fragrance of love, um, that came through, like I said, of course, on a smaller scale, which is still significant. My mom and loving grandmothers and grandpa, who we've never bumped heads. He was amazing. Robert Smith, rest in heaven as well. So I had all these, I had a great idea, somewhat of an idea. I don't think a great idea, but somewhat of an idea of what love was. in what love isn't, but yet still perplexed at times because alongside of that, I experienced abuse as a kid, a little boy, right? Now, I was
Yeah.
raped as a little boy by a babysitter. It's a true story. And I think some rage came from that. Um, I was physically abused a little bit, without saying who that came from, but I was physically abused and few bones broken in my heel that they said would never heal. The doctor said would never heal. And so that venting, right? That unresolved trauma took me to some pretty dark places, amazing places, but dark spaces as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine. And um, first of all, I am sorry for your losses. And
Thank
also,
you.
I want to acknowledge the experiences who created you as you are. Um, I really love how you embrace the fact that um, your trauma is something that built you, right? A lot of these conversations and stories of sharing, you know,
Yeah.
past trauma, it's usually like, but I've separated myself from that and now I've risen above. And here you're saying, yes, I was in the pit of hell.
Mhm.
And because of
Yeah.
that, I found love, I
Yes.
found God. And
Yeah.
you always repeat God is paramount.
God is
And,
paramount.
like we could end the whole podcast right now and people would be done taking notes 'cause
Right? I
right? Because
promise. No
really,
doubt. No doubt.
that's the ultimate
Absolutely.
in embracing your rage right there.
It really is. It really is. Something came to mind. Like I'm starting to kind of reminisce a little bit. My mom would speak positive affirmations over me. I think that's very important as a parent. This is why I intentionally did that with my daughter. She bypassed a whole lot of the. I think we're just like sometimes we're going through those rageful experiences through trauma, right? Layered in trauma, and then the healing begins. But you know, it's just it's been a ride. Let me just say that. And rage through the taste and fragrance of rage somehow, I was able to my mom would speak some things. She would just say, "Oh, you're not done. There's greater things in store for you. You're a winner. You're gonna be stronger as a result of this situation." That one time in life many years ago, but you never forget it. Is you got to see me change in transition my lifestyle and shift the trajectory of my life, and that was through those rageful moments really became a mirror of how I'm really feeling. Sometimes you need that rage to be able to face it, embrace it, and erase it. But she would tell me oftentimes, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're this, you're gonna be stronger as a result of this and that, and I had some things boggled up coming up in terms of that. She didn't really find out about what happened uh, to me when I was little. But again, look, the good news is this: I was a star on the basketball team, right with the broken heel in my foot. My mom had the X-rays or whatever, and you could see my broken heel, but I still was in like 18 points a game, and I was still doing my thing, and somehow it made me better. The way I wrote music, writing poetry at 12, um, something that I never really meant to share with the world was like my version of a journal, you know? You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
I
And
do. Literally,
yeah,
I did look, I think I was about 13 when I started writing poetry for similar reasons.
mhm, that's awesome. That's crazy. Right around the same time. And it
Right.
wasn't it something that's it was so therapeutic. It was this safe haven, this galaxy, like the
Mhm.
same way with music, right? God really gave me that to really help me regulate my rage, because there was a point in time, even with the amazing mentorship of my mom and others, and my dad exposing me to spiritual things, very early, and yet simultaneously I'm being turned on by the street life with some of my classmates who were like, it's crazy stuff, like drive-by killers and dealers, right? They were on the basketball team too. So I grew up in this up until my best friend got killed, and there was a different type of rage that came from that. So it was just one traumatic experience after the other, which is why today I'm able to really weather, through the grace of God, so many different storms, right? And to be able to not just compartmentalize them, but I'm like, I've already had to face some of the worst early on, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So what didn't break me, God used it to make me, and He taught me how to do the same, but not to act as if the rage doesn't exist. And I was mad at the world at the time. If you now, I want to revisit what you said earlier. Now, this is not
Mhm.
my first poetry book, but because I had two or three that I had out, but it was limited editions with a publishing company out of Baltimore, Maryland, put
Oh,
out
okay.
Lucille Ball's autobiography, but they were limited editions. But this is the first one where it's, filtered through Pure Mission Entertainment Publishing, the publishing
Oh,
side of my company. Yeah, my last few books were finally a publishing company now. Yeah, as well. So it's a good
amen. Look,
books.
we're gonna talk about that in a minute because I got to, have another book coming out. But anyway.
Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Yeah, yeah, the holler for sure. And Newport Beach, Cali, the line was long for people throwing manuscripts. They found this out there at the Les Brown release party, launch party, that we co-authored with him. But there's a lot of people who want to put out books, but hey, you're a good friend, so I've already known you longer, so I think you may get first deals on that.
Yay, I skipped to the front of the line.
you know, you know what I mean? But goodbye past, hello future. Um, my past was, my mom used to say this, and here it is. This is the quote that I was waiting for God to read, help me to remember. It's like, you're very compassionate in terms of your heart, but you're rough around the edges, son.
Mm,
And the reason I was rough around the edges was because I really couldn't understand. I write about this and Never Stop Winning 2.0 a little bit. I don't know. The first chapter, where my
mhm.
agenda to win, where I noticed that there weren't too many Black landowners, uh, people who own properties. Um, I didn't understand why a liquor store was on every corner of the hoods. I didn't understand why guns could infiltrate and enter into our neighborhoods quicker than any other neighborhood, suburban or rich, right?
Yeah.
So those things brought me and my friends coming up, not all of them, but a lot of them, some rage, along with they're having like maybe dysfunction in their homes, or and most of the time it was neglect. It was something, or they were being abused as well, or by a certain person or parent. And it's yeah. And you go through these moments where you're kind of mad at the world, and almost, because I was ignorant then, almost mad at God too, because I didn't understand. Like, okay, I was a project baby, and now God, I'm grateful for it all, because I never seen the projects. When I was like, I guess in the middle school and stuff like that, we moved out of the neighborhood and got into some quiet neighborhoods, which was really a test for me, because I was so accustomed to, late at night hearing gunshots in the alley. And, you know, yeah. So my best friend got killed. That was a turning point. Um, and that rage was really, really starting to take me down, Saros, because I didn't know how to process it. Yes, you go to church, you have some, spiritual fathers and spiritual moms. My dad and mom always have been believers or whatever, and lived a, pretty good lifestyle. That was
Right.
pretty real and accurate. Not perfect because no one is, only God is, but I would
Right.
say I'm grateful for that balance because on one end I have that, and then this other end I have, this rageful thug life type thing. Not that we were trying. See, you have the don't wannabes and the wannabes out here. The wannabes always made us mad because we were trying so hard not to be,
Yeah.
uh,
Right.
not to be gangsters and drug dealers back then, and just thugsters, just love running the streets or whatever, and just living a certain life. But what I found out, we were merely venting. It wasn't that it was cool. It wasn't that we wanted the other little kids, the generations coming behind us. This is one of the reasons I stopped my daughter, and then all of these young people that look up to us, look up to myself, right? But I
Right.
have to tell the true story about the rage, because before you can get to the love, the euphoria, the blissfulness in life, the abundance even, you have to understand the dichotomy between embracing that rage head on, because whatever you can't face or embrace, you can never erase, or even God sometimes can't do. And he can do all things, but only what we allow him to do can God really. He helps those who help themselves. So we have to first, it's like going to the hospital, you have to say, okay, doc, they ask you typically, even in the emergency rooms, right? They ask you, a gang of Q&A, like, what's going on? What's the problem? And you may say, oh man, my heart or my head's been hurting. I've been having these migraines, or oh man, my chest is starting to hurt, or I'm having these side pains, whatever that may be. You can't get help for that which you're not willing to acknowledge. Because that's
Yeah.
why in that last book, before the poetry book, I have a chapter to end it with winning through trauma. That,
Mm-hmm.
and when you say trauma, there's rage that lies underneath, that is filtered, is layered with rage and love, hope, resilience, pain, high pressure, and all these things. So I think it's the way we process it. And in terms of eternal love, that's that God kind of love that we're talking about. And God's love, he loved me through my trauma, through my rage. And he said, it's okay to be angry, just don't let the sun go down on your wrath, right? And
I
you know what I'm
think it's,
saying?
yeah, I do. I totally get that. And I love how I'm listening to you, and as we triage like our lives, right? Essentially, you're
Mhm.
using that analogy of the ER. We can easily use the word trauma, but I think the better word and the most appropriate word is the rage, right? But
Yeah,
it's somehow not
yeah.
politically correct or whatever. And also,
Mm,
with by not acknowledging the real source and what it's
yes,
actually called for you. Like any melanated person in this country or at this point anywhere in the world has some rage. We need to name it
back.
that.
Yeah,
This
yeah, have to.
it's kind of like the end product is, yeah, it was traumatizing, right? It was
Yeah,
traumatizing, but what's living in your body?
yeah,
What's living in your muscle fibers? What's living in your recorded, uh, what do you call it? Like, the way you think about yourself is really rage, you know? And I love that you also brought in those you had your mother, and that's the person who should, of all the people in your life, speaking life into your life. You
yeah,
are this, you are that, she's like elevating your soul.
yeah.
And unfortunately, many children experience mothers that do not speak life into their life, and that's a source
Facts.
of you as well, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so it's like just naming the emotion, not trauma, like just plaster it up. "Oh, I've had trauma." Everybody's had trauma, but have you had rage? Have you had sadness? Have you had depression? Have you had
Yeah.
extreme anger? Do you get, you know, ticked off when, like me as a Black woman, two things happened when I took off my hijab, right? Number one, I was invisible because it's like, oh, like I almost got stepped on. You understand?
Yeah.
Um,
I do.
and the other thing that happened is because I have locks, oh, now I become a pet in a petting zoo, right? White people
Wow.
always want to touch your hair. And that is a source of rage for me. Don't touch my hair.
Don't
Don't
touch your
touch me.
sister's hair. Don't ever
Ask.
touch a black woman's hair. I'm telling you. It better be in the posture of love. I'm telling you that right now. If you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, Other than that, that is a red flag. A no, no. Don't ever. Mm-mm.
Right. Ask permission. So I love that you're naming, you're telling your story and you're naming the
Yeah.
emotions that you experienced throughout your life that culminated in what
Yeah.
you can call trauma. And through that, you recognize that it wasn't because the absence of God or because God didn't see you, but it's because it's part of your journey and
Yeah.
he loves you, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
True. No doubt.
and you can love yourself too.
That's a different, yeah, that's another story we can tap into. That's so essential what you're saying. Like, yeah, self-love is not, a lot of people are afraid of self-love because they think it like takes away from the dynamic of them loving other people. No, you love people based off the love that you're already vibrating towards yourself and God. Because otherwise you
Yeah.
can't love people the right way. We love from that space. I always say it, eternal love to me is agape love. It's unconditional love, meaning, you know what I mean? In all
Mhm.
conditions, under all conditions, in all climates, God's love's it's eternal. It stays. It's infinite. You know what I mean? And then if we can love ourselves from that space, no matter what happens, where anyone else is saying perhaps about you, maybe behind your back or to your face, it matters not because you already have that self-love and that awareness that, hey, like that's who needs to love me first is me.
Yeah.
And that can cure a lot of those other cancers that we deal with in terms of rage that becomes toxic because there's good rage and there's bad rage. Okay.
Well, there's just
Let's
really
let's go there.
unprocessed rage. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go there because I
Let's
would
go there.
say the bad rage is the unprocessed, unnamed rage,
Mm,
right? The
yeah.
good rage is the I acknowledge I have rage
Yeah.
and I'm going to process this because, like we were saying before we started recording that, well, I was saying that rage, it comes from something meaning something to you, because it's
Mm,
dear to you, because you love it so much, right? Your friend
yeah.
got shot,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
because you loved him, because your mother loves you, you guys moved out of that neighborhood so that you could live, you know?
Yeah. The greatest move my mom ever and dad ever made was that transitioning from having to keep dreaming big in a toxic environment, like one of the chapters in the first volume. Never start with it. So the acknowledgement, I think let's go there too. Like I so agree with what you just said. Okay, um, that's the only bad rage to me is when it's not processed properly and you start to allow your rage or your trauma, which is one and the same. I agree with that concept as well is when it starts to affect the people around you. Then and you then it affects you. And typically we kind of it's reciprocated through how we engage with other people. That's
Yeah.
what's so dangerous about unprocessed rage via trauma, because the first step to that cure into shifting bad rage, because I know what that's like, and transmuting that into good rage, is when that unprocessed trauma causes you to stagnate and others around you to stagnate, and now you're lashing out, and you're lashing out at yourself too, you know. And I always say this: how you treat yourself is how you're gonna treat others. It's a reflection. We're vibrating that. So
Yeah.
then the good rage is being able to leverage those, which it took years, and it took God, it took mentorship, it took all of these things to just acknowledge, though. That's the first part in that fifth chapter of 2.0. I'm not just talking a bunch of fluff. I'm saying like this is what I had to learn through experience, right? It brings hope after that. Like trial and error reflection, you know, and not necessarily correcting. You can't go back and really correct the past, but you can grow from the past, and you can learn from that past and leverage your past right into your future and never stop winning. That's what we've been doing. And but it's a lot of rage. The bad rage versus the good rage. The good rage, it can work for you when you record, when you're writing books, when you're speaking, you know, when you're coaching, even life coach. I'm life coaching any generation you could think of or any age group. They're on my roster right now. They pay, and this is what I tell them. I said it all starts with the courage, because it takes courage, it takes faith to acknowledge that this is how I really feel, or I'm pissed about this, you know. But to sit up here and act like, yeah, I know what that's like. It's going to come out like a volcano eruption, and then then it's going to spill all over the place, and then you know you become not just a menace to society, you become a menace to your inner or internal society. Then
I'm gonna
that's when
flip
it's
the
a
script
problem.
on the volcano. No, I like that. I like that. And also, right? A
Mhm.
volcano can be good rage
Yeah, yeah, I
because,
like that.
right?
Yeah,
Because,
yeah,
like, think
yeah,
about it. Like, why does the
absolutely.
earth express in that way?
Mhm.
Because there's new growth that has to happen. I mean, I
Yeah.
have been to Hawaii on a site where, the land was destroyed and everything, but I went like 2 years after the
Mhm.
volcano erupted, and
Yeah.
what did I see?
What's that?
Pineapple plants.
Hmm. Do tell.
And when pineapples start to grow, there are these beautiful, like, pink flowers.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you have this nice, thick, rich black soil and these
Mhm.
beautiful pink flowers coming out. And
Mm.
yes, it looks, like you can see also the singed trees that once were there
Mhm.
and, like a road that got disrupted or redirected, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was necessary. It was
Mm.
necessary for whatever to that was there to be pushed away, to be melted away,
Yeah.
so that new land can form and new, plants
Good
can
stuff.
form, right? So, pineapples feed
Yeah.
people, and they're sweet, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, looks like a olive too, you know, olive trees. You crush that olive, that good substance and that oil, it starts to flow out the more that it's crushed up on and beat up on, or even pure gold. It has to be purified by fire, and I liken the fire to our most traumatic or rageful experiences, you know. And I love how you've talked about the shedding. That's precisely why. That's the very reason it had to happen in my life. Because had it not, maybe we wouldn't deliver love the way we do. You know,
Mm.
uh, right? Via music, via poetry, via personal development. These are three areas where we've been blessed to excel. Right? I wouldn't have the same delivery behind the booth or with the pen, or the digital pen. So it, it we need it all. Like it all makes up who we are. I don't think I will have the same flame, you know? How could I know resilience is brilliance if I really didn't have to be resilient through some of the most fiery darts and fiery trials and tribulations, right? That have killed even some of our friends, constituents, and affiliates. They didn't make it out. But I was blessed to find an outlet. When you take that word outlet, right? Let's deal with outlet. There's always an outlet. Yeah, right. You take that word outlet, right? And
Mhm.
you say it backwards. You say it backwards and you got let out. So I
Mm.
don't, right? There's some God shared with me. And when you become aware of this nuance right here, okay,
Right.
no matter what's going on in your life, in your world, internal world, because really our internal world is kind of a mere reflection of what's going on in all of our internal world, the external. It's internal then external. Most people think it's external then internal, but it's like no.
Right.
But then once you realize that you have an outlet, okay, I had to give myself an outlet in order to release, you know? And sometimes, hey, I'm not God. Sometimes that release didn't always go the way that I planned for it to go in terms of, oh, I wasn't meaning to go there, but I did, right? Whatever that may be. And let's go here. We could talk. Look, sometimes it would cause us to be over promiscuous, sexually involved with, you know what I mean? Like it would lead, and then you realize, like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Like, I can't blame this on the girls or the lady, the ladies. Or when I was a little boy, they were always swarming, and it was just like the enemy would always, try to put these, and I would always have that in my subconscious. I didn't understand. I didn't understand or overstand the subconscious mind, but I didn't realize that these musical gifts and talents and etc. Right, so forth and so on, were outlets, a medium to be able to let it out.
Yeah.
Feel me?
Yeah. Definitely. These are opportunities rather, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to self-reflect, and
Mhm.
a lot of people would judge and shame themselves, for having negative quote unquote outlets. And you know, is it negative? Is it really negative? It's looked down upon in society, but again, even in the promiscuity, you are connecting with another soul on a very deep
Yeah.
level, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
superficial, but
Right.
technically, it is a spiritual exchange that's happening there, whether you acknowledge it or
Oh,
not.
yes. Oh,
And
yes. Oh,
and in that
yes. I
spiritual
acknowledged it
exchange,
then. I just didn't know how to cure it. I didn't know how to process it, but I did have the awareness that, yeah, but like you say, is it so bad though? Because I learned from it, and this was in my earlier days. Like this is why we've been able to focus so much. I don't move that way anymore because I don't process it that way anymore, and I still allow
yes.
myself room to rage, but to rage with intentionality.
Yes.
You can put strategy and stamp that on your rage. People don't know that, but once you see that it's an outlet versus this is just such a horrible thing, you know that
Yeah.
that 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 has happened or is happening or that I've done as a result of my, let's just go there. Sometimes it's really just unprocessed, and you're learning. I think we're ever learning it. Do I get rageful now in this day, 8 years into PME? Well, the last decade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I just know how now I don't look. It's the perspective, the outlook on rage, right? It's an outlet to release those toxins or right out
Yeah.
without without damaging anyone. Let's go there because now that's when it's bad, when
Yeah.
your rage starts to hurt the people that you love, and that's the vow that I've taken over these last decade at least, especially the last 8 years of PME that changed my life. My why changed. You have more, even more of the bigger than me is bigger than me. So I have to face this rage, embrace it like this, and really fellowship with it. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
say, and then I can dominate my own rage. I can navigate it better. I can say, no, you're not going this way. You're there. You're definitely here. You showed up again. Oh, okay. And then some rage got it's just totally eradicated. It's dismantled. But then there's this other thing that God said. This is heavy right here, right? I was in prayer and meditation, and God said, hey, there's going to be some things about you that I'm going to leave so my strength could be perfect and your weakness. This is why I'm paramount. This is why you always call me that. So I'm going to leave some of that there because now I can trust you or trust in the fact or the truth that as I elevate you and expand your platforms, that you're not going to embarrass me, you're not going to embarrass yourself. You're going to process this rage and you're going to transmute it into empowering people, changing lives, and creating hope through arts, love, business, and entertainment. That's the only way that I'm able to process the rage. Is the why is more important, and they're both important, but the why is way more important than any pain that I can go through or endure, any rage, any trauma, because that why is bigger than Willie J. So now, you know what I mean? So now it
Yeah.
changes my whole outlook and perspective. In the outlook, you look out, go backwards, look out. So I'm able to look outside of the rage. Whereas at one point, the rage almost killed me,
Yeah.
almost took my freedom. I almost missed my beautiful daughter who's 20 years old now, and doing very well in college in the life. I almost missed that beautiful uh
Mm.
I, if euphoria, that euphoric moment, heavenly moment. And a lot of those mistakes were due to they acknowledge, like, no, you're venting, you're and it's okay to vent, but at least understand the dichotomy, like understand the congruence between just venting and venting with purpose, and venting with intentionality, with awareness, like understanding, like, okay, this is not just happening to me, this is happening for me.
Yes.
Then the rage becomes an outlet, and then you can let it out, outlet, let out, right? And
Mhm.
then and then now rage looks different when it comes again, because it's always going to come in different formats, different layers. It could be through constituents, it can be through the industry. I love what I do in terms of music and books and speaking, whatever, and coaching, life coaching, but I'm not a big fan of the way the industry moves. And I'm just so happy to be in the industry. I'm not of this industry, right? Because people in that space don't, for the most part, don't know how to process their rage because they don't acknowledge it fully. But you can partially acknowledge your rage, and yet your rage is going to find a way to dominate you. But when you
If
fully
yeah.
embrace it, rage starts to obey you. It starts to obey your wishes and commands and says, okay, what do you want me to do, master? You know what I mean? Your rage becomes your slave, right? Because now you're no longer afraid of it because you faced it and embrace it. And now you can erase. When I say erase it, sometimes God said, I won't just, there's certain things I may not erase. And I'll just give you grace for that because I need you to have that same, you know, edge and delivery juice. Because if it wasn't for this pain, you could not deliver, and I couldn't use you the way I'm using you now. So there's this balance, and it's okay. It's just okay. You know, I don't strive to be perfect. I strive to be better. There's no such thing. We're perfectly imperfect, and I'm just grateful I don't deal with race the way I did even 15, 20 years ago. You know, thank God for change,
Yeah.
because I'm telling you, that rage, ooh, it'll have you going 110 miles, 120, a buck 20, and oh man, in a 10 hour, in the 10 mile per hour zone, 20 miles zone, because because it's getting the best of you. You don't know how to leverage it because you're not fully embracing it, and you're not aware that this is an outlet, an opportunity, as you said. Time is opportunity to what? Yeah, get to know yourself. You got to get to know yourself. I used to take myself out to dinner and weird stuff, movies, just me, myself, and I, and God, and have a dinner with myself. Not because I didn't, I couldn't do anything else and didn't have any other choices. It was really strategic. I was like, you know what? I want to spend some time with you, Willie J. Let me see what's up with you, bro. Like, let's hang out. Let's go see a movie. Let's go, read a few books and boys and others, have some coffee. Let's have a little coffee, a little green tea. Let's do that. Let's get to know each other and let's talk about whatever. That is what we don't do with ourselves right there.
Yeah, being present with yourself and really spending that time. And
I'm
I
telling
love,
you.
like you were, as you were explaining, um, getting the best of rage, right? It's like you take the spark out of the fire, right? And you use that
Yeah,
rather than letting all the flame and heat of the fire like
yeah,
overcome you, right? And burn you up.
no doubt. Yeah, that's it. That's it. So, what I would love for every listener to know that it's okay to face it and embrace it. Embrace and face the ugliest of the ugliest things that you think is so ugly, because sometimes the things that you think is so ugly about you is not that ugly or ugly at all to someone else, right?
Right.
It's that true, right? But it's not about them. It, it's about you.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that traumatic rage, because rage is filtered through a lot of traumatic experiences, and they vary for all of us. Like you say, we all have it, but the degree of those traumas, they may vary. But I don't think that's even the important nuance or the caveat. The caveat is have the courage to face it and get to know you and God. Get to know, you know what I mean? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What makes you angry? You know what I mean? Like, if you need to go out to a vacant park area or whatever, wooded area, be safe now. Stay away from the lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. All right. Still watch out. You know what I mean? But if you need to go out and just scream and get away from everybody, there was one time I went, this was a while ago when my rage, I started to learn and started to process and understand, that it's really an outlet. I heard God's internal voice say, you have some things in you, and you're not going to be, environment is key too, right? Where you try to process your rage, right? And with
Right.
whom, who your the sources you're connected to, the relationships, right? That play. So he said, go 4.5 hours away, go all the way to Nashville. I was like, what did I already what's in Nashville for business? This was like 6 years later. He said, go there, unplanned, just spontaneous. Just get up, go, and just go there and spend a few days there. And I need you to get in one of those, suites or whatever, really private, and just take the pillow and just scream and cry and get everything out of you that you've been trying to avoid, that rage, that trauma, and get it out. And what I tell you, by the time I got back on the road to return home, I was a different person.
I
I was
bet.
more hurt. I was nothing but liberty. I felt like
Wow.
it was a form of detoxing.
Mm.
You know, we don't talk
Yeah.
about that much. We talk about the food, and that's necessary too. But what about mental detoxing? What about detox from unsuppressed rage, which turns into cancers over time?
What about spiritual detoxing, right? Where you have had these bouts of promiscuity, right? Where you're
Yeah, yeah.
getting these spirits attached to you that
Oh my
are not good
God,
for you, you know?
not good at all. That's
And,
the downward spiral. And I'm almost that's another story. Go ahead, keep talking.
but there's other forms of promiscuous spiritual exchange, people that watch porn. That's
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
thing, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. It is.
there's
Yeah.
like a lot of things that attach to us that we don't
Mm,
even acknowledge that we are doing to ourselves. These are examples of how the rage burns you up
yeah.
instead of you benefiting from the spark and the flame of the rage is, you know, what
Yeah, I
happens
love
when you
that.
embrace it. So I love the
Yeah,
way that you've been so vulnerable and open, sharing your story and infusing life lessons for all of us.
yeah. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
always a pleasure having you on What People Miss, Willie J.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, my friend. It's always great chopping it up and dialoguing with you, sister, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I hope we said something that would empower, because it really starts with you. All change does. You know, it's easy to point fingers. And let me say this before we end. Like, there's a whole bunch of fear mongering and rage baiting going on in our country right now. Okay. Don't fall for it. Don't go for the cheese. All the answers are within us, the man or the woman in the mirror, like that. It starts with us. All transformation starts with us. Everything that we desire to see, that we have to be and become the changes that we desire to see. And I get it. Sometimes there's a moment where protest peaceful, but don't let your rage turn into something deadly. Like is that's not processing it the right way. Because now you're hurting other people because you're upset. And yeah, that's not the way to do it.
It's not.
Start with you. Look into your mirror. It's easy to point fingers. Oh, look at what she did. Look at what he did. Look at what they're not doing. What are you doing though? You
Yeah.
could easy to say, "Oh, she's so rageful. He's so rageful. They're so angry. Oh, that's a shame." No, check yourself on that. Like, yeah, we gotta learn to agree to disagree in this country again,
Or
because we're
even with
not.
our
We're
global
yeah.
counterparts. 'Cause I
Right,
mean, right, it's
right,
like, I
right,
know we're ending
right.
our conversation. It looks like we're gonna have another one because,
I think we will. Yeah, we should. You know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute. You have unprocessed rageful people, then you ask some of them why they're even mad. At least understand why you're rageful and angry. Like, you're angry just because you heard that they're angry. It's like, no,
yeah, we
we're
don't
responsible for ourselves.
you're
I take ownership
responsible
of
for
my
your own
own
stuff.
rage. I don't care what happened to me. I had to learn that. It's about self accountability. My happiness, my bliss, my failures, my wins, my rage, my peace, my joy, my sadness, grieving, whatever that is. That's on me in terms of how I will process that. I can't blame you and anyone else or the president or the Pope or whoever it is. This is like a lot of finger pointing going on. And it's like, no, yeah, most angry people are angry with themselves and other things, why things happen to them. So, yeah, get happy with yourself first. Yeah, I was finger pointing. I mean, like, it's so easy to do that, right, sis? Like, come on, my friend. Like,
Well, my finger's
oh, I'm
closest
mad
to my
because
body.
Cordelia. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's the freedom though, right? Like I'm responsible for where I am and who I am right now. That's all I can do, and accept every part of me, and do it without judgment because we're judging ourselves, then we judging other people. Now it's, all these crazy things happening because a lot of people are miserable with themselves. Misery loves a lot of company, and I don't go to those type of functions anymore. Like the misery and loves company celebration or extravaganzas. I don't attend those.
Extravaganza. I love that.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
yes.
Thanks for having me though. Yeah, so that's
Thank you
okay.
so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and
Thank you.
teaching
Thank
us a
you.
new way. Well, teaching us a new
Okay.
way, you know?
Thank you. It's my honor. Appreciate it. Enjoy the substance that you always bring as well. Various topics in your show and just you alone. So keep doing what you're doing as well. Keep up the amazing work. It's
Thank you.
needed. Yes.
Appreciate
Salute.
it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is that it? The end? 2 minutes, I think we have left.
Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna play the outro and voila.
All right.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. It's been real. Appreciate
Thank you.
you. All right, my friend.
Thank you for listening to What People Miss. What did you learn today? How will you choose differently? I can support your journey at choice with my 14-day journey called Feel Safe to Lead. Click the link below to join my school community now. And remember to choose joy and pleasure. Until next week, learn more, explore current offerings at CordeliaGaffar.com.